Billionaire pretends to be poor on the first date, and what the doctor does shocks the entire restaurant. Dr. Alison Vance nervously watched the man sitting across from her as waiters whispered among themselves and other customers shot looks of contempt. She had agreed to that upset date even against her gut instinct, but now she seriously questioned her decision. That was when the messy-haired, wrinkled-clothed man looked up from the menu and smiled shyly. "Sorry for the delay, Doc. It's just that the prices here are a bit steep for me," he said, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. Alison tried to hide her embarrassment. The Terrace Upper East Side was known as one of the most upscale restaurants in New York City, and she had specifically chosen that place to impress. Now she bitterly regretted it. "No problem, Julian. What would you like to order?" she asked, forcing a smile. Julian ran a hand through his tousled hair and pointed at the cheapest item on the menu. "I think I'll just go with the salad. And water, please." The waiter who approached to take the order could barely hide his expression of disdain. Alison noticed how he looked at Julian's simple clothes and then at her, clearly questioning what a doctor was doing there with that man. "I'll have the grilled salmon and a glass of white wine," Alison ordered, trying to smooth things over. "Very well, ma'am. Any appetizer to share?" the waiter asked, addressing only her. "No, thank you," Julian replied quickly before Alison could speak. "We can't afford an appetizer." An awkward silence fell over the table. Alison felt her cheeks burn with shame when she noticed that the nearby tables had stopped talking to watch the scene. "Julian, you said you work in what field again?" she asked, trying to break the tense mood. "Well, actually," he hesitated, fidgeting with his hands. "I lost my job last week. I worked for a cleaning company, but they let several people go." Alison felt a pang of guilt. There she was, freshly graduated from medical school, judging a man who was clearly going through financial hardship. "I'm sorry, Julian. That must be tough." "It is, Doc, but I didn't want to cancel our date. You seemed so cool in your messages." He smiled with genuine shyness. "I promise that as soon as I get another job, I can take you somewhere better." Something about the sincere way he spoke touched Alison's heart. She had always prided herself on not being shallow, on valuing people's character over appearances or financial status. Maybe she should give that man a real chance. "Don't worry about that. What matters is the company, not the place," she said. And for the first time that night her smile was genuine. Julian seemed to relax a bit, and they started talking more naturally. He told her about his simple childhood in Newark, about how he always dreamed of having a better life. Alison talked about her medical residency, about the challenges of working at the public hospital. When the dishes arrived, Alison noticed how Julian ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it were a feast. There was something touching about that, a simple gratitude she rarely saw in the people she surrounded herself with. "Can I ask you a personal question?" Julian said suddenly. "Sure. Why did you agree to go out with me? I mean, you probably have plenty of suitors, doctors, lawyers." Alison thought for a moment before answering. "Because you were the only one who didn't try to impress me by talking about fancy cars or trips. Your messages were genuine." Julian smiled, but there was sadness in that smile. "Genuine because I don't have much to make up, right?" He laughed without humor. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and hit that like button and most importantly subscribe to the channel. It really helps us folks who are just starting out." Now continuing on, the conversation flowed better after that. Julian revealed a passion for books, especially biographies, and Alison discovered they shared a love for classic jazz standards. For a few moments, she almost forgot about the awkward setting and the curious glances. That's when the bill arrived and things got really tense. The waiter brought the check and placed it discreetly next to Alison, clearly assuming she'd pay. Julian reached out to grab it. "Let me handle it," he said. Alison saw his eyes widen when he saw the total. Even though it was just one main course each, the amount was hefty for someone unemployed. "Julian, don't worry about it. I've got it," she said softly. "No, Dr. Vance, I invited you. I'm paying," he replied firmly, pulling a worn-out wallet from his pocket. Alison watched in horror as Julian began counting crumpled bills and some coins. Other tables were clearly taking notice of the scene, and she felt her face burn with embarrassment. "Julian, seriously, let me—" "I've got it, Dr. Vance, just one moment." He kept counting, separating even the cents. The waiter came back to the table and stood there, clearly impatient. Allison wanted to disappear. Some nearby customers were whispering and pointing discreetly in their direction. "There," Julian said finally, stacking the bills and coins. "That's the exact amount." The waiter picked up the money with a look of pure disdain and walked away quickly. Allison got up from her chair, eager to leave as soon as possible. "Allison, wait," Julian said, catching up to her near the restaurant door. "What is it, Julian?" she replied, harsher than she intended, still embarrassed by the situation. "I know you felt awkward in there, and I get it, I swear I do, but—" He hesitated. "Can you give me just 5 more minutes?" "Julian, it was a nice date, but please, just 5 minutes. There's something important I need to tell you." Something in his voice made Allison stop. There was an urgency there that had nothing to do with romance or second chances. "All right, 5 minutes." They stepped away from the restaurant entrance, moving to a more secluded spot on the boardwalk. "Dr. Vance, I wasn't completely honest with you," Julian began, running his hands through his hair nervously. Allison's heart raced. Was he married? Did he have a criminal record? "I really did lose my job, that's true. But it wasn't at a cleaning company." He took a deep breath. "I worked as a security guard at hospitals, and over those years I saw a lot of things, including doctors." "What do you mean?" "Allison, I need your help. Not for me, but for my mum. She's very sick, and the doctors at the clinic can't figure out what's wrong with her." Allison felt a mix of relief and compassion. So that was it. He was desperate for medical help. "Julian, I understand your situation, but I just graduated. I barely finished my residency. She's been unconscious for 3 days, Dr. Vance. The doctors are talking about a coma, but they don't know why. She has no insurance, no money for a private consultation." His voice cracked. "You're the only doctor I know." Allison looked at that man who had embarrassed her in the restaurant just moments ago, and now he stood there vulnerable, begging for his mother's life. "Where is she admitted?" "At Newark Public Medical Center, Wing 3, Bed 15. "I'll take a look at her tomorrow morning," Allison said. "I can't promise anything, but at least I can talk to the doctors in charge." Julian's eyes filled with tears. "Dr. Vance, I can't afford to pay you." "You don't need to pay anything, Julian. It's what any decent doctor would do." He held her hands with gratitude. "Thank you so much, Allison. Really, thank you." The next morning, Allison took 2 buses to get to Newark Public Medical Center. It was a stark contrast to the private hospitals where she worked the night shifts. Crowded hallways, lack of equipment, overwhelmed staff. She found Wing 3 and asked about the patient in Bed 15. "Mrs. Martha Vance?" she asked the nurse. "Poor thing, she's been here for a week already. Her son comes every day." "A week?" Allison was confused. Julian had said 3 days. "Yeah, since last Monday." "Why, doctor?" Allison walked over to Bed 15, but found only an empty bed with fresh sheets. "Excuse me, where's the patient from here?" she asked another nurse. "Which patient, doctor?" "Martha Vance. She should be in this bed." "Doctor, we don't have any Martha Vance admitted. That bed's been empty since yesterday." A chill settled in Allison's stomach. She asked to check the system, but there really was no record of any Martha Vance in the past 2 weeks. "Are you sure it was here?" the nurse insisted. Allison left the hospital confused and annoyed. Had Julian lied about his mother? Why would he do something like that? She took the bus back, mulling over the situation the whole way. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. It wasn't enough that she'd been humiliated at the restaurant. Now she'd wasted an entire morning on a lie. She arrived at Prestige Medical Center, where she worked, still fuming. She headed straight for the locker room to change her coat when her colleague Claire approached. "Allison, Dr. Harrison wants to see you in his office." "Now?" "He said it was urgent, something about an important donor." Allison sighed. Dr. Harrison Ford was the hospital's clinical director, a man known for his rigidity and formality. What donor could this be? She knocked on his door and entered. "Dr. Harrison, Claire said you wanted to see me." "Yes, Alison, have a seat. I have a very important person to introduce you to." He smiled oddly, as if nervous. "He's one of the hospital's biggest benefactors. Actually, of several hospitals in the city." The door opened behind her, and Alison turned to greet the benefactor. She almost fainted. Julian walked into the room, but it wasn't the same Julian from the night before. His hair was perfectly styled. He wore an impeccable Italian suit, leather shoes that cost more than her salary, and had a completely different demeanor. "Dr. Harrison, a pleasure," he said with a firm, polite voice, extending his hand to the director. "Julian Sterling." Alison sat frozen in the chair, trying to process what she was seeing. "Dr. Alison Vance," said Dr. Harrison, gesturing toward her, "one of our most promising residents. Alison, this is Mr. Julian Sterling, owner of the Sterling Hospital Group." Julian turned to her with a polite smile, as if seeing her for the first time. "Dr. Vance, a pleasure." Alison opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her brain was still trying to connect the disheveled man from yesterday with the elegant billionaire in front of her. "Mr. Sterling has an interesting offer for you, Alison," Dr. Harrison continued. "A full scholarship for a cardiology specialization in the United Kingdom. At the Prestige Medical Institute," Julian added calmly, "all paid for. Travel, accommodation, tuition, personal expenses." Alison finally found her voice, but when she spoke it was with anger. "Do you two think I'm an idiot?" Dr. Harrison was startled. "Alison, what—" She stood up from the chair and stared at Julian. "Your act last night was very good. Congratulations." "Alison, what's going on here?" Dr. Harrison looked lost. "That man," she pointed at Julian, "pretended to be poor when we met last night. He made me look like a fool at the restaurant, made up some story about his sick mother, and now he shows up here offering a scholarship like he's Santa Claus." Julian remained calm, just watching. "Is that true, Mr. Sterling?" asked Dr. Harrison, clearly uncomfortable. "It's true," Julian replied simply. The silence in the room was deafening. "Why?" asked Alison, her voice thick with anger. What was the point of this humiliation? Julian took a deep breath before answering. "I wanted to see who you really were, without the influence of money." "And who am I, in your assessment?" Her voice dripped with sarcasm. "A compassionate doctor who was willing to help a stranger without expecting anything in return." Alison laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "So this scholarship is my reward for passing your test." She picked up the coffee cup from Dr. Harrison's desk. "You can shove your scholarship where the sun doesn't shine," and she threw the coffee at Julian's very expensive suit. The dark stains spread across the light fabric, while Julian remained still, showing neither anger nor surprise. "Alison!" shouted Dr. Harrison, getting up from his chair. "Dr. Harrison, this man humiliated me. He made me believe I was being compassionate, when really I was being tested like a lab rat." She headed for the door, but stopped before leaving. "And for the record, Mr. Julian Sterling," she said his full name with contempt, "I don't take handouts from people who get their kicks playing with others' feelings." She slammed the door behind her, leaving the two men in silence. Outside, Alison leaned against the wall, trembling with anger and adrenaline. Claire rushed over. "Alison, what happened?" Everyone heard the shouting. Before she could answer, the door opened and Dr. Harrison came out, his face red with anger. "Dr. Vance, in my office, now." Alison went back inside, where Julian was still standing, his suit stained. "Mr. Sterling, I must apologize profusely for Dr. Vance's behavior," began Dr. Harrison. "No need to apologize, Dr. Harrison. She has every right to be upset." Julian cleaned his suit with a handkerchief. "Actually, I admired her guts." "Alison," Dr. Harrison turned to her, "do you have any idea what you've just done? This man donated $15 million to this hospital just last year." "I don't care if he donated $15 billion, Alison replied. "Money doesn't give you the right to toy with people." Julian watched the argument without saying a word. "Dr. Vance," he finally spoke, "can I have 5 minutes alone with you?" "I think that's best avoided," intervened Dr. Harrison. "No, it's fine," said Alison. "I want to hear what he has to say." Dr. Harrison reluctantly left the room, leaving the two of them alone. "Go ahead," said Alison, crossing her arms. "First, I really do apologize. You're right, it was unnecessary humiliation. Go on. Second, I really did lose my job last week, not at a cleaning company, but as the CEO of my own company." Alison looked at him confused. "What do you mean? I quit. I got tired of being CEO. I wanted to experience what life was like for ordinary people." "Are you kidding me again?" "No, I'm serious. For 20 years I lived in a bubble of privilege. I never knew what it was like not to have money, never had to count coins to pay a bill." Alison shook her head in disbelief. "So you decided to play at being poor for a week?" "It wasn't a game. It was an experience that changed me." He stepped closer to her. "Do you know how many people have gone out with me just for my money? That doesn't justify lying." "It doesn't, you're right. But help me understand something. When you found out I was poor, did you treat me worse or better?" Alison hesitated before answering. "I felt sorry for you. And now that you know I'm rich, I feel disgusted by you." Julian laughed, but it wasn't a mean-spirited laugh. "At least you're honest. I've always been. Unlike some people." "Alison, can I show you something?" He grabbed his phone and showed a series of messages. "These are the messages I planned to send you this morning, telling you the truth about who I am. Check the timestamps. They were written before our meeting, just never sent." Alison read the messages. They really did explain everything: who he was, why he had lied, and a sincere apology. "Why didn't you send them?" "Because you found out about the lie about my mother first." "Oh, right, the non-existent mother." Julian got serious. "My mother exists, Alison. She's just not at the Newark Public Medical Center." "So where is she?" "In the ICU at Grand Star Medical Suites. She's been hospitalized for 2 months with heart problems." His tone had completely changed. There was no more lightness or joking around. "She really is in bad shape. And when I said I needed your help, that was true. I just wasn't honest about the context." Alison sat down in a chair, processing everything. "Julian, I don't understand anything anymore. You're rich. Your mother is in a private hospital with the best doctors in the country. Why would you need my help?" "Because all the doctors taking care of her treat me like a walking checkbook. They agree with everything I say, never question me, never give honest opinions." He sat down across from her. "Yesterday at the restaurant, when I told you about my mother, you didn't hesitate to offer help, even thinking I was a poor, unemployed guy who couldn't pay you anything. Any decent doctor would do the same." "No, Alison, not every doctor would. I know because I tested several." She looked at him in astonishment. "You tested other doctors too?" "I did. And you know what happened? Some offered to help, but only after finding out who I was. Others didn't even offer." Alison was silent, digesting that information. "Alison, you were the first person who offered genuine help without knowing who I was or if there was anything in it for you. That still doesn't justify the lie, Julian. It doesn't justify it, but it explains it. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The room door opened and Dr. Harrison came back, clearly anxious. "Have you two talked?" "Dr. Harrison," said Julian, "I'd like to keep the scholarship offer for Dr. Vance, but with a different condition." "What condition?" asked Alison. "That you agree to be my mother's personal doctor for the next 6 months. If she recovers, you get the scholarship. If she doesn't recover, you still get the scholarship, but for the effort." "Julian, that's emotional blackmail." "No, Alison, it's a job offer. You'd be hired as a medical consultant with full salary, plus the scholarship at the end." Dr. Harrison cut into the conversation. "Alison, you can't turn down an opportunity like this, prestige medical institute. It's any doctor's dream." "I can turn it down, and I will." "Why?" asked Julian. "Because I don't want anything that comes from you. I don't trust you." "Alison, I understand your anger, but—" "No, you don't understand. You think you can buy anyone, but I'm not for sale." She got up and headed for the door again. "Dr. Vance, Julian's voice grew more serious. "If you refuse, my mother might not have much time." Alison stopped with her hand on the doorknob. "What do you mean by that? The doctors can't figure out what's causing her heart episodes. They've run every possible test, but nothing conclusive. And you think I'll be able to figure out what renowned cardiologists couldn't? I think you'll really try, without worrying about pleasing me or contradicting the patient's billionaire son." Alison sat back down. "Julian, assuming your mother actually exists and is really sick, why should I help?" "Because she's a good person who isn't responsible for her son's mistakes." Something about the simplicity of that answer touched Alison. "What's she like?" "Mrs. Martha is 68 years old. She worked her whole life as a cleaner to give me a better education. When I made it big, I offered her a big house, staff, all the luxuries. You know what she chose?" "What?" "She stayed living in the same simple house in Newark. She said a big house brings loneliness, and she'd rather be close to her longtime neighbors." Alison smiled involuntarily. "She sounds special." "She is. And she's suffering because she doesn't understand why her son became so suspicious and complicated." "Dr. Harrison," Alison turned to the director, "can I take a 6-month leave?" "Of course, Alison, it'll be considered a special residency. And Julian, I have conditions." "What are they?" "First, I treat your mother like any patient. No special treatment, no privileges, just quality medicine." "Accepted." "Second, you don't interfere with my work. I decide the treatments, you just approve or disapprove." "Accepted." "Third, if I find out you're lying about anything related to her condition, I drop the case immediately." "Accepted." "And fourth, no meetings, dinners, or anything personal between us. Strictly professional relationship." Julian hesitated for a moment before answering. "Accepted." "Then we have a deal," said Alison, extending her hand. Julian shook her hand, and for a moment their eyes met. There was something there neither wanted to admit, but both felt. "When can I meet your mother?" asked Alison. "Now, if you want. I'll take you there." An hour later, Alison was at Grand Star Medical Suites, one of the most luxurious in the city. The difference from the public hospital in Newark was striking. Clean, silent hallways, cutting-edge technology, attentive nurses. "This way, Dr. Vance," said Julian, guiding her through the corridors. They stopped in front of the cardiac ICU. "She's in there," Julian pointed through the glass. Alison saw a white-haired woman looking much younger than 68, connected to several monitors. Even unconscious, there was serenity on her face. "Can I see her chart?" Julian handed over a thick file. Alison spent the next 30 minutes studying every test, every medical report, every medication administered. "Julian, can I ask a few questions?" "Of course." "When did the heart episode start?" 2 months ago. It was very sudden." "Does she have a family history of heart problems?" "No. My paternal grandfather had high blood pressure, but nothing serious." "Did anything change in her routine in the past few months? Medications, diet, exercise?" Julian thought for a moment. "Actually, yes. She started taking some natural remedies a neighbor recommended." Alison looked up from the chart. "What kind of natural remedies?" "Some herbs to improve memory. She'd been forgetful lately." "Do you know what herbs those were?" "Not exactly. I can ask the neighbor. I need a complete list of everything she was taking. Prescription meds, natural remedies, vitamins, everything. I can get that today." Alison went back to analyzing the tests. "Julian, can I go in to examine her?" "The doctors said she's not responding to stimuli." "Even so, I need to do my own assessment." They entered the ICU, and Alison approached the bed. She took Mrs. Martha's hand and began simple reflex tests. "Mrs. Martha, my name is Alison. I'm a doctor and I'm here to help you." "Nothing." Alison continued the exam, checking pupils, reflexes, reactions to pain. "The other doctors already ran these same tests," said Julian. "I know, but sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes." Suddenly, when Alison pressed a specific point on the patient's hand, Mrs. Martha let out a faint moan. "She reacted," said Alison, surprised. "That can't be. The doctors said she doesn't respond to anything." Alison repeated the test, and again there was a subtle reaction. Julian, she's not in a deep coma, she's over-sedated. What do you mean? Someone's been giving her too many sedatives, that's why she's not responding. But the doctors wouldn't do that without a reason. Not intentionally, but if she's having allergic reactions or drug interactions, her body might be metabolizing the medications incorrectly. Allison left the ICU and went to find the attending physician. Dr. Arthur, I'm Dr. Allison Vance. I came to evaluate the patient, Martha Vance. Oh yes, Mr. Julian told me. So what's your assessment? I think she's over-medicated. When was the last time you reassessed the dosages? Dr. Arthur checked the chart. We do daily reassessments. Based on what? Vital signs and the patient's response. Dr. Arthur, with all due respect, but the patient isn't responding precisely because she's over-medicated. The doctor seemed offended. Doctor, I have 20 years of experience in cardiology, and I'm questioning the medication, not your experience. Julian, who had been listening to the conversation, stepped closer. Dr. Arthur, Dr. Vance is authorized to make any changes she deems necessary to my mother's treatment. Mr. Julian, this is highly irregular. It's my decision, and my mother's if she were conscious. Dr. Arthur looked from Allison to Julian, clearly uncomfortable. Fine, but I need to document that I don't agree with hasty changes. Document it, Julian said curtly. Allison spent the rest of the afternoon reorganizing Mrs. Martha's medication. She drastically reduced the sedatives, adjusted the cardiac dosages, and ordered new blood tests. Julian, your mother will need close monitoring over the next 24 hours. I can hire private nurses. That won't be necessary. I'll stay here tonight. Allison, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do. If I'm right about the medication, she might react overnight. Then I'll stay too. No, Julian, you're going home to rest. Allison, she's my mother. And she's my patient. Go home. Julian wanted to argue, but something in Allison's firm tone made him back down. All right, but if anything happens, I'll call you. At 2 in the morning, Allison was dozing in an armchair beside Mrs. Martha's bed when she heard a soft groan. Mrs. Martha? The patient slowly opened her eyes, confused. Where am I? Allison gently held her hand. Mrs. Martha, my name is Allison. You're in the hospital. You fell ill a few days ago. I don't remember. She tried to sit up. Easy. Don't push yourself. You're recovering. Where's Julian, my son? He's at home. Do you want me to call him? No, let him rest. Poor thing, he must be worried. Allison smiled. Even waking up confused in the hospital, Mrs. Martha's first concern was for her son. Mrs. Martha, do you remember taking any new medication in the past few months? Medication? She thought for a moment. Oh yes. Mrs. Gladys gave me some herbs for my memory. What kind of herbs? I don't quite remember the name. Ginkgo. Something like that. Allison made a note. Ginkgo biloba could interact with heart medications, especially if the dosage was high. Mrs. Martha, how many times a day did you take that herb? 3 times. Mrs. Gladys said the more I took, the better my memory would get. There was the answer. Too much ginkgo biloba interacting with the heart medications she was taking for prevention, causing the arrhythmias. Mrs. Martha, you're going to be fine, but you can't take those herbs anymore. All right, doctor, you're very young to be a doctor, aren't you? Allison laughed. I just graduated. Your condition was my first difficult case. And you managed to figure out what I had? I did. Thanks to the information you gave me. Mrs. Martha took Allison's hand. Thank you, doctor. Julian chose a good doctor to take care of me. Actually, he chose me. My son is a good boy, you know. He just became very suspicious after he got rich. Suspicious how? He thinks people only get close to him because of his money. That's why he can never really date anyone. Allison was curious but didn't want to ask any more questions. Mrs. Martha, you need to rest. Tomorrow we'll run some tests to make sure everything is fine. Doctor, can I ask you a favor? Of course. Don't tell Julian that I woke up tonight. Let it be a surprise tomorrow morning. Why? Because it will be the best news he's gotten in months, and he deserves to have a complete joy, not a half one. Allison agreed, touched by the mother's consideration for her son. The next morning, Julian arrived at the hospital at 7 in the morning, as he had every day for 2 months. He found Alison having coffee in the hallway. How was her night? Good, stable. Any improvement? Julian, come with me, I want to show you something. They entered the ICU and Alison approached the bed. Mrs. Martha, your son is here. Mrs. Martha opened her eyes and smiled. Good morning, my love. Julian stood still. For a moment, he seemed not to believe what he was seeing. Mom? His voice broke. Hi, son. I thought you weren't going to make it. Julian rushed to the side of the bed and held her hand, tears in his eyes. Mom, How are you feeling? Much better. Dr. Alison took very good care of me. Julian looked at Alison with an expression that mixed gratitude, relief, and something deeper. How did you do it? He asked softly. Your mother had medication poisoning. The natural herbs she was taking were interfering with her heart medications. Was that all? That was all. But no doctor had asked about natural medication. They only considered traditional medicines. Son, said Mrs. Martha, this doctor is special. Don't let her get away. Mom, Julian got embarrassed. I'm serious. In 2 months in the hospital, she was the only one who actually talked to me like a person, not a patient. Alison stepped back a little to give mother and son privacy, but she could still hear the conversation. Mom, Dr. Alison is just helping me professionally. Julian, I'm not blind. I saw how you look at her. Mom, please. And I saw how she looks at you too. Alison felt her face warm. Was it that obvious? Mom, it's complicated. I made some mistakes. What mistakes? Julian briefly told about the meeting at the restaurant, about the lie, about how he had met Alison. Julian Sterling. Mrs. Martha's voice turned stern. Did you really do that? I did, Mum, and now she doesn't trust me. Of course she doesn't trust you. What were you thinking? I wanted to be sure she wasn't interested in my money. Son, do you think a woman who stays up all night taking care of a stranger is interested in money? Julian didn't know what to answer. Mom, how can I fix this? By being honest from now on, no more tests, no more lies. Alison decided to interrupt the conversation. Mrs. Martha, I'll arrange your transfer to a regular room. You don't need to stay in the ICU anymore. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you for everything. It was a pleasure taking care of you. Dr. Vance, said Julian, can I speak with you outside? They left the ICU and went to a more secluded corner of the hallway. Alison, I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to thank me, I was just doing my job. It wasn't just a job, and we both know that. Alison didn't reply. Alison, I know I made mistakes. I know I lied, I know I hurt you. But can you give me a chance to show you who I really am? Julian, I already know who you are, a billionaire who enjoys testing people. That's not true. That test was an exception, not a rule. How can I be sure? Because I'll prove it to you. How? Let me take you to dinner, but this time no lies, no tests, no games. Alison hesitated. Julian, I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because I'm already too emotionally involved with your family, and that might compromise my medical judgment. My mother is already cured, Alison. You did what you promised. She needs follow-up care for the next few months. Other doctors can handle that follow-up. I don't want other doctors. I want it to be you. It was Mrs. Martha's voice. She had left the ICU in a wheelchair, pushed by a nurse. Mrs. Martha, you should be resting, said Alison. I'll rest later. Now I need to talk to both of you. The nurse helped her stand, and Mrs. Martha walked slowly over to them. Dear, she said to Alison, can I call you dear? Of course, Mrs. Martha. Alison, my son is complicated, I know, but he's a good man. He just needs to learn to trust people. Mrs. Martha, let me finish. Julian, you also need to stop testing everyone. People aren't puzzles for you to solve. Mother and son listened in silence. Now you two are going to have dinner together tonight. No lies, no games, no tests. Just two people talking honestly. Mom, Alison already said she doesn't want to... Alison, Mrs. Martha interrupted. Do you like my son? The question caught Alison off guard. "Mrs. Martha, It's a simple question. Do you like him or not?" Alison looked at Julian, then back at Mrs. Martha. "I do, but I don't trust him." "And you, Julian, do you like Alison?" "I like her a lot, Mom." "Then it's settled. You'll have dinner, talk, and sort out this trust issue." "Mrs. Martha, it's not that simple," said Alison. "Dear, I'm 68 years old. I've seen a lot in life, and I've learned that when two good people care for each other, everything else is just talk. But he lied to me, and you threw coffee on his very expensive suit." Mrs. Martha smiled. "You're even." Despite the seriousness of the situation, Alison couldn't help but laugh. "All right, Mrs. Martha, I'll accept dinner with your son. But I choose the restaurant," Alison said quickly. "You can choose," Julian agreed. "And nothing fancy or expensive." "Fine. And you pay your share, I'll pay mine." "Alison, those are the conditions." "Accepted." Mrs. Martha clapped her hands, satisfied. "There. Now you two set a time, and I'll go back to my room to rest. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, be sure to hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. That evening, Alison waited for Julian at the door of a simple steakhouse in the outer boroughs of New York City. She had deliberately chosen an unpretentious place where he couldn't impress her with money. Julian arrived on time, wearing jeans and a simple shirt. None of the expensive suits she had seen him in. "Good choice," he said, looking at the restaurant. "It's been a while since I ate at a place like this." "Since when?" "Honestly, since before I got rich." They went in and sat down at a simple wooden table. The setting was unpretentious, with old-school country music playing in the background and families having dinner around them. "Julian, before we start talking, I need to make something clear," said Alison. "What?" "I want you to be completely honest with me tonight. No omissions, no half-truths. If I ask you something, you tell me the truth, even if it's awkward. And if I make the same request of you? Deal." "Then let's start. Why did you really agree to have dinner with me tonight?" Alison took a deep breath. "Because I was curious to find out who you really are when you're not pretending to be someone else." "And what would you like to know?" "Everything. Your story, how you got rich, why you became so suspicious." Julian signaled to the waiter, ordered 2 beers, and began to tell his story. "I grew up in Newark in a house with 3 rooms. My mother worked as a cleaning lady during the day and did laundry for people at night. My father left us when I was 5. That must have been tough." "It was, but my mother never let me feel sorry for myself. She used to say poverty wasn't an excuse to be ignorant or ill-mannered." "How did you get out of that situation?" "By studying. My mother insisted I go to school even when we didn't have money for a snack. She said education was the only inheritance she could leave me." The waiter brought the beers and they ordered dinner. "Go on," said Alison. "I got a scholarship to study engineering at NYU. During college, I worked nights at a bakery to help my mother. That's where I got the idea for my first business." "What idea?" "Bread delivery. It seems obvious now, but in 2010, nobody was delivering bakery products. I started with a borrowed bike, servicing a few buildings in my neighborhood. And it worked. It worked better than I imagined. In 2 years, I had 15 employees and a fleet of motorcycles. In 5 years, it was the largest food delivery company in the outer boroughs." "When did you consider yourself rich?" Julian thought for a moment. "When I managed to buy a house for my mother and still had money left over to invest in other businesses." "And was that when you changed?" "Changed how?" "Became suspicious, created those tests for people." Julian's face grew serious. "No, Alison, that started when I fell in love for the first time." "Tell me." "I met a woman named Victoria, a doctor like you. Smart, beautiful, seemed perfect. We dated for 2 years. What happened? I found out she was only with me for the money. Worse than that, I found out she was sharing details of our intimate life with her friends, laughing at me behind my back." Alison made a face of disgust. How did you find out? A friend of hers had a guilty conscience and told me. Victoria called our relationship a full-time job. She said putting up with me was the price she paid for a life of luxury. Wow, that's awful. That's when I started to distrust everyone who got close to me, especially women. And the tests. They started as a way to protect myself, but I admit I went overboard. Dinner arrived, and they ate in silence for a few minutes. "Can I ask you a question?" said Alison. "Sure." "How many women did you test before me?" Julian looked uncomfortable. "Alison, you said you wanted total honesty." "I do." 7. 7? And what happened to them? They all passed the tests, but when they found out who I was, their attitude completely changed. How so? They became gold diggers, started talking about expensive things, trips, jewelry. The genuine interest they'd shown in my problems disappeared. Alison reflected on that. "Julian, have you ever considered the possibility that maybe those women didn't become gold diggers, but just felt betrayed by the lie?" "What do you mean?" "Imagine finding out that the person you're involved with lied about something as fundamental as their identity. Maybe they acted defensively, not out of selfishness." Julian stopped eating, processing what she had said. "Do you think I misread their reactions?" "I don't know, but I think you should consider that possibility. And in your case, did you feel betrayed when you found out who I was?" "Completely. I felt like our entire conversation at the restaurant was an act on your part. And it was, in a way." "Exactly. And that hurts, Julian. It really hurts. Alison, can I ask you something personal?" "Go ahead." "Why are you single? A beautiful, smart doctor." "Because I have my own issues with relationships too." "What kind of issues?" Alison hesitated, fiddling with her fork on her plate. "My story is different from yours, but the end result is similar." "How so?" "I dated a man named Bradley for 5 years. He was a cardiologist, well-established, from a traditional family. What happened? I found out he was keeping me as a second option. He had another girlfriend from the same social class whom his parents approved of. I was the fun relationship. She was the wife candidate." Julian stopped eating to listen more closely. "When I found out, I ended it right away. But you know what hurt me the most?" "What?" He didn't deny it. He said I knew a doctor from a humble background would never be accepted by his family. What a son of a bitch. That's when I decided I wouldn't date rich men anymore. I thought they were all the same, shallow and prejudiced. "And now? Do you still think that?" "I don't know, Julian. You've confused me." "Why?" "Because sometimes you seem genuinely humble and concerned about other people. Other times you seem like a typical billionaire who thinks he can buy anything. And which version is the real one? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?" Julian laughed. "Alison, can I show you something?" "What?" He picked up his phone and showed a series of photos. "These are pictures of my house." Alison saw images of a simple middle-class home, well-kept, but with no luxury at all. "I don't get it. I thought you lived in a mansion." "I do own a mansion, but I don't live there." "What do you mean?" "The mansion is for business events, meetings, impressing investors. I actually live in that simple house, 5 minutes from my mother's place." "Why?" "Because when I'm surrounded by luxury for too long, I forget where I came from. And when I forget where I came from, I make bad decisions." Alison looked at the photos again. The house was truly simple. 2 bedrooms, a small living room and kitchen, a yard with some plants. "Julian, can I ask you a tough question?" "Go ahead." "If you really like simplicity, why do you need all that wealth?" "Good question. The truth is I don't need it. Most of the money I make, I donate." "Donate to who?" "Public hospitals, schools, daycare centers, but always anonymously." "Why anonymously?" "Because when people know you've donated money, they start treating you differently, either with excessive gratitude or with expectations of more donations." "And that bothers you?" "It bothers me when it's fake. I'd rather people like me for who I am, not for what I can give them." Alison was starting to understand Julian's complex personality better. "Can I see one more thing?" he asked. "What now?" Julian picked up his phone again and showed a folder with dozens of photos of children. These are the kids who were able to get heart surgeries thanks to my donations over the last 2 years. Alison scrolled through the photos, moved by the stories each little face told. How many are there? 232. All cured? Most of them, yes. Some. He hesitated. Some what? Some we couldn't save in time. His voice cracked. Julian, this must be very hard for you. It is. Every child we can't help stays on my conscience. Is that why you donate so much? Partly, but also because I know what it's like to go without. I know what it's like to watch your mother cry because she can't afford medicine. Alison felt a wave of admiration for him. Julian, can I tell you a secret? Go ahead. One of those children in the photos. I know her. Julian looked at her, surprised. Which one? Alison pointed to a photo of a girl about 6 years old. Sarah Louise. She's my sister's daughter. Julian went pale. That's impossible. No, it's true. She was born with a heart condition. My sister works as a housekeeper and couldn't afford the surgery. Then out of nowhere, an anonymous benefactor paid for everything. Alison, I swear I didn't know she was your niece. I know you didn't. But do you know what that means? What? It means you saved someone in my family without even knowing who I was. That proves your generosity is genuine. Julian was moved. How is she now? Great. Playing, running, living like a normal kid. Thanks to you. Alison, can I tell you something else? Go ahead. You were the first person besides my mother who showed genuine interest in helping me when I was broke. Even though you didn't know me, even though you didn't know if I could pay you. Any decent doctor would do the same. No, Alison, that's not true, and you know it. She knew he was right. You. Julian, can I ask you one last thing? Go ahead. If I decide to give you a second chance, do you promise never to lie to me again? I promise. Even if the truth is awkward or difficult? Especially then. And no more tests? Never again. And if I ask to see your real life, not the billionaire version? You can see it all, Alison. My home, my routine, my fears, my insecurities. Your fears. My biggest fear is dying alone, surrounded by people who only care about my money. And your greatest hope? To find someone who likes me for who I am inside, not for what I have. Alison reached her hand across the table. Julian, I'd like to get to know who you really are. He took her hand, smiling. And I'd like to show you. But one thing, no rushing. Let's take it slow, building trust little by little. I completely agree. And your mother remains my patient for the next 6 months. She'll love hearing that. Right then, Alison's phone rang. It was the hospital. Dr. Vance, this is Nurse Audrey from Grand Star Medical Suites. Mrs. Martha is asking to speak with you urgently. Did something happen? No, she's fine. She just insisted I call. Alison handed the phone to Julian. Mom, is everything okay? Yes, my son. I just wanted to know if you two have made up. Julian laughed. Mom, we're having dinner. How did you know? Mother's intuition. So? Julian looked at Alison, who nodded. Yes, Mom, we've made up. Great. Now put Alison on. Hello, Mrs. Martha. Dear, take good care of my boy. He's more sensitive than he lets on. I will, Mrs. Martha. And Julian, take good care of Alison. She's special. I will, Mom. All right, now you two can get back to dinner. And don't come visit me today. Enjoy your evening. Alison hung up, smiling. Your mother is amazing. She is, and she really likes you. How do you know? Because she's never interfered in my relationships before. Not even when you were dating Victoria? Especially when I was dating Victoria. My mum always said there was something off about that woman, but she respected my choice. Your mother is wise. She is, and she's never wrong about people. They finished dinner, talking about lighter topics, movies, music, plans for the future. Alison discovered that Julian played the guitar and loved old-school country music. Julian discovered that Alison painted in her spare time and dreamed of doing volunteer work abroad. When it was time to leave, Julian insisted on calling an Uber for Alison. I can take the bus, Julian. Alison, it's almost 11 at night. Please let me pay for the Uber. Okay, but just this once. While they waited for the car to arrive, Julian got nervous. Alison, can I ask you a favor? What favor? Can I kiss you? The question caught Alison off guard. Julian, if you don't want to, I completely understand. But it was the most genuine night I've had in years, and I'd like to... Alison interrupted him, kissing him softly. It was a tender kiss, unhurried, full of possibilities. Wow, Julian said when they parted. Wow, Alison agreed, smiling. The Uber arrived and Alison got in the car. Before closing the door, she turned to Julian. Thanks for the night. It was special. Can I call you tomorrow? You can, but remember, slow. Slow, he repeated, smiling. The next day, Alison woke up with a strange feeling. For the first time in a long while, she was eager for someone to call. Julian called at 9 in the morning. Good morning, did you sleep well? I did. And you? Best night's sleep in months. Alison, can I see you today? I can come visit your mother in the afternoon. And after that, we could grab coffee. We could. Great. Oh, and Alison? What? Thank you for last night, for giving me a second chance. Julian, yes? Don't let me down. I won't let you down. Over the following weeks, Julian kept his promise. No lies, no tests, no games. He showed Alison his simple home, introduced her to his neighbors, took her to see the social projects he anonymously funded. Alison met a man completely different from the flashy billionaire she had imagined. Julian woke up early, made his own meals, drove a simple car, and treated everyone around him with genuine respect. Why do you keep up that public image of a flashy billionaire? Alison asked one afternoon while they were walking along Copacabana Beach. Marketing, Julian replied. Investors and clients expect me to look successful. If I showed up to a business meeting driving a 2010 Civic, they'd doubt my competence. Doesn't that bother you, living this double life? It used to, but less now. Why? Because now I have someone who knows both versions and likes the real one. Alison smiled, intertwining her fingers with his. Mrs. Martha made a full recovery and went back home. But she insisted on keeping her weekly appointments with Alison, claiming she needed to monitor her heart. During one of those appointments, she asked a direct question. Alison, when are you two getting married? Mrs. Martha. Alison blushed. What? You've been dating for 2 months. You like each other. What's the problem? Mrs. Martha, you know your son is complicated. And you're not? The older woman laughed. Sweetheart, perfect people are boring. You complete each other. What do you mean? He needed to learn to trust. You taught him. You needed to learn that not every rich man is shallow. He showed you that. Alison thought about that. Mrs. Martha, can I tell you a secret? Of course, dear. I'm in love with your son. And where's the secret in that? Any blind person can see you're in love. The secret is that I'm scared. Scared of what? That one day he'll get tired of the simplicity and go back to the billionaire world. Mrs. Martha held Alison's hands. Sweetheart, have you seen how my son looks at you? How does he look at me? Like I looked at his father when we were young. Like someone who's found their place in the world. Are you sure? Alison, I raised that boy. I know every expression of his, and I've never seen him as happy as he is now. And what if it goes wrong? And what if it works out? Mrs. Martha shot back. Sweetheart, in life you can either make a mistake by trying or by not trying. At least when you try, you don't spend your life wondering, what if? That night, Alison decided to have a serious talk with Julian. They were at his modest home making dinner together, something they had started doing regularly. Julian, I need to ask you something important. Go ahead. Do you plan on living like this forever? In this house with this simplicity? Yes. Julian stopped chopping the vegetables and looked at her. Why do you ask? Because I need to know if this is permanent or if you're just going through a phase. Alison, this here is who I really am. The flashy billionaire version is temporary, just for business. Are you sure? Absolutely. Why? Would you prefer I were more extravagant? No, she answered too quickly. I prefer you like this. I just wanted to be sure. Julian stepped closer to her. Alison, is there something you're not telling me? She took a deep breath. I'm in love with you, Julian smiled. I'm in love with you too. But I'm scared. Of what? That you'll change. That one day you'll wake up and decide you want a different life. Julian cupped her face in his hands. Alison, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. What? Before I met you, I was thinking about selling everything and moving to the countryside, buying a farm, planting some things, living a simple life away from all this business pressure. Really? Really? The only thing keeping me here was my mother. But now what? Now I have you too, and I want to build a simple life here, with both of you. Julian, are you sure about this? You have so much money, so many possibilities. Alison, money can't buy the only two things that really matter in life. What are they? True love and peace of mind. And I have both with you. Alison kissed him, feeling like she could finally believe what he was saying. Julian? Yes? I want to build a life with you too. Even though I'm a complicated billionaire? Especially because you're a complicated billionaire who chooses to be simple. They spent the rest of the night making plans. Julian talked about his dream of expanding the social projects. Alison talked about her desire to set up a community clinic in the outer boroughs. What if we did this together? Julian suggested. A clinic that would treat low-income families for free. You'd fund it? Fund it and work alongside you. I can handle the administrative side, you take care of the medical side. Julian, that would be incredible. Then it's settled. We'll set up our clinic. 3 months later, they inaugurated St. Martha Community Clinic, named after Julian's mother. It was a modest project, 5 exam rooms, a small surgical suite, and a team of 10 professionals. Mrs. Martha was the first official patient treated. I'm so proud of you two, she said, after having a routine checkup with Alison. Thank you for inspiring us, Mrs. Martha, Alison replied. Inspiring you how? Your recovery showed me that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective, and it inspired me to work with preventive medicine for underprivileged families. And it inspired me to use my money in a more direct and personal way, Julian added. Instead of just making anonymous donations, now I can see the results of the investment. You two are special, Mrs. Martha said, emotional. Now tell me, when are you getting married? Julian and Alison looked at each other and laughed. Mrs. Martha, you never give up, do you? Alison said. I don't give up because I want to see my grandchild before I get any older. Mom! Julian turned red. What? It's a legitimate wish from a mother. That night, Julian took Alison to dinner at the same restaurant where they had first met, the Terrace, Upper East Side. Why did we come back here? Asked Alison. You'll understand. They sat down at the exact same table as the first night. Alison, at this table 6 months ago I made the mistake that almost made me lose the most important person in my life. Julian, let me finish. At this table, I learned that honesty is worth more than any test. That trust isn't won with games, but with consistency. Julian stood up from his chair and knelt beside the table. Alison Vance, will you marry me? The entire restaurant stopped to watch the scene. Alison recognized some of the waiters from the first night, who now smiled instead of showing contempt. Julian, are you sure? I've never been so sure of anything in my life. Even knowing I'll always be a simple doctor, that I never cared about the billionaire world. Especially because of that. You brought me back to who I really am. And even knowing I'll always question your decisions, that I'm not a decorative wife. I hope you do. I need someone to keep me honest. Alison looked around the restaurant, saw all those people waiting for her answer. Julian, there's something I need to do before I answer. What? Alison stood up, grabbed her purse, and pulled out a small bottle of water. The first time we were here, I threw coffee on your clothes out of anger. Now, she opened the bottle and poured the water on her own clothes. Now I get wet for love. The entire restaurant applauded, including the waiters. So? Asked Julian, still on one knee. Yes, Julian, I accept. I'll marry you. He placed a simple gold ring on her finger. No flashy diamonds. Why such a simple ring? Asked Alison. Because it was made from the gold of my grandparents' wedding ring. My mum kept it for decades, waiting for the right moment. Your mum knew you were going to propose to me today. She planned everything. She chose the restaurant, suggested the ring, even convinced the manager to give us the same table. Alison laughed, emotional. Your mom is incredible. Our mom, Julian corrected. From now on, she's our mom. The wedding took place 3 months later, in a simple ceremony in Mrs. Martha's backyard. There was no extravagance, just family and close friends. Alison wore a simple dress that had belonged to Julian's grandmother. Julian wore the suit his grandfather had worn at his own wedding, adjusted to fit him. You both look beautiful, said Mrs. Martha, emotional, before the ceremony began. Thank you for everything, Mom, said Alison, hugging her. Thank you for what, dear? For raising such a special man, and for teaching us that true love doesn't have to be complicated. Dear, can I tell you one last secret? Of course. From the day Julian was born, I prayed that he would find a woman who loved his heart, not his wallet. You are the answer to my prayers. The ceremony was led by a simple pastor from the community. The vows were written by the couple themselves. Alison, said Julian, reading from his paper, I promise never to lie to you again, never to test you again, and never to hide who I really am. I promise to choose our simple life every day, even when the world tries to convince us we need more. Julian, answered Alison, I promise to trust you every day, even when my insecurities try to convince me otherwise. I promise to support your dreams and share mine with you. And I promise to love both the billionaire and the simple man, because I understand they are the same person. When the pastor said, You may kiss the bride, Julian whispered in Alison's ear, This kiss is real. There's no test, no hidden agenda, it's just love. All your kisses were always real, she replied. I was just slow to realize it. The party took place right there, in the backyard. Julian played guitar and sang a song he had composed for Alison. She painted a live picture during the party, depicting the simple house where they would live. Where are you going on your honeymoon? Asked a guest. We're spending a week at my family's beach house in the Hamptons, Alison replied. A simple house, Julian added. No butlers, no luxuries, just the two of us and the sea. Mrs. Martha approached the couple at the end of the party. Can I give you one last blessing? Of course, Mom, they answered together. May you never forget that true love isn't in grand gestures, but in the little moments. May you have the wisdom to value what you have, not what you lack. And may you always be honest with each other, even when the truth hurts. Thank you, Mom, said Alison, emotional. Thank you for everything, Mom, said Julian. Now go and be happy, and give me a grandchild to spoil soon. 6 months after the wedding, Julian and Alison received news that would change their lives forever. Alison, I need to tell you something, Julian said, arriving from the clinic one afternoon. What happened? You seem off. I got an offer today. Alison's heart raced. Could it be some business proposal that would change their lives? What kind of offer? An American university wants to sponsor our clinic as a model for other developing countries. Is that good or bad? It depends. They want both of us to spend 6 months a year in the United Kingdom, training other professionals. Does that mean we'll have to change our lives? Not necessarily, we can refuse. Alison reflected for a moment. Julian, remember when you offered me the scholarship at Prestige Medical Institute and I turned it down? I remember. I turned it down because it came from you, but now if it comes from us as a couple, as a project we've built together, would you be up for it? I would, but with one condition. What? Your mom comes with us. Julian smiled. I already talked to her. She said she'll only go if she can keep living in a simple house there too. Can she? Yes. The university offered a modest house for the 3 of us, near the campus. Then we're going? We're going. But first we have something more important to figure out. What? Julian pointed at Alison's belly. How are we going to tell our mum she's going to be a grandmother? Alison looked at him in surprise. How did you know? I only found out today. You've been glowing for a few days. And you've been eating chocolate for breakfast. Alison laughed and showed him the positive pregnancy test. I found out this morning. I was going to tell you at dinner. Julian picked her up and spun her around the room. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. Julian, put me down. Remember, I'm pregnant? They kissed, emotional about the news. How are we going to tell your mom? Asked Alison. We'll have dinner there tonight. At dessert time, you announce it. Me? Why me? Because if I tell her, she'll have a heart attack from joy. If you tell her, she'll cry with emotion. I'd rather she cry. That night, during dinner at Mrs. Martha's house, Alison was nervous. Honey, you're very quiet tonight, Mrs. Martha observed. It's just that I have news to tell you. Good or bad? Good. Very good. Then spill it, because I can't stand the suspense. Alison looked at Julian, who nodded encouragingly. Mrs. Martha, you're going to be a grandmother. The spoon dropped from the old lady's hand. What did you say? I'm pregnant, Mum. Mrs. Martha got up from her chair, walked over to Alison, and hugged her tightly. My God, what happiness! She laughed and cried at the same time. How many months? It's still very early, about 6 weeks. And how are you feeling? Good. A little nauseous in the morning, but good. Julian, you're going to be a father. Mrs. Martha hugged her son. I am, Mum. And you're going to be a grandmother. Oh, I need to start putting together the baby layette and picking out names and preparing the nursery. Mum, calm down, Julian laughed. We still have 8 months. 8 months flies by. We need to get organized. Mrs. Martha, said Alison, we have another piece of news too. Oh, my heart can't take any more excitement. We'll be spending 6 months a year in the United Kingdom, working at a university. And what about me? Asked Mrs. Martha, worried. You're coming with us, replied Julian. If you want to, of course. Want to? Do you think I'd let my first grandchild grow up far away from me? Then it's settled, said Alison. We're going to be an international family. A simple international family, corrected Julian. The best possible combination, agreed Mrs. Martha. 9 months later, Leo Vance Sterling was born, a healthy baby welcomed with all the love in the world by the 3 most important people in his life. He's beautiful, said Mrs. Martha, holding her grandson in her arms for the first time. He takes after his mother, said Julian, kissing Alison. He takes after his father, she countered. He takes after both of you, Mrs. Martha decided. And he'll grow up knowing that what matters isn't how much money you have, but how many people you love and how many people truly love you. Grandma is already giving him life lessons, laughed Alison. It's never too early to learn what really matters. 2 years later, the family had settled into a perfect routine, 6 months in Brazil, working at the community clinic, and 6 months in the United Kingdom, expanding the project to other communities. Leo was growing up bilingual, simple, and surrounded by love. Daddy, why do people sometimes say you're rich? The boy asked one day, playing in the yard of their simple home. Julian stopped planting tomatoes and looked at his son. Because Daddy has money, Leo, but money doesn't make anyone better than anyone else. Then why do you have money? So I can help other people and take care of our family. And why don't you use the money to buy a big house? Because a big house doesn't make us happier, and our home already has everything we need, love, affection, and space to play. And when I grow up, will I have money too? If you work and study hard, maybe you will. But always remember, the important thing isn't having money, it's knowing how to use it to do good. Like you and Mommy do at the clinic. Exactly like Mommy and I do at the clinic. Alison, who was listening to the conversation from the kitchen window, smiled. Julian had become an incredible father, teaching solid values to their son without ever hiding the reality of life. That night, after Leo fell asleep, the couple sat on the porch to talk. Julian, do you regret anything? Asked Alison. Lying to you on our first date. I'll always regret that. Besides that, no. And you? I regret throwing coffee on your clothes. Why? That was the bravest thing anyone had done to me in years. But it was destructive. I could have talked to you like a civilized person. Alison, if you hadn't thrown that coffee on me, maybe I never would have realized how much I had hurt you. Do you really think that? I do. That coffee woke me up. Literally. Alison laughed, remembering the scene. Sometimes I think I should have thrown the sugar bowl too. Don't overdo it, laughed Julian. That suit cost $15,000. $15,000 on a suit, Julian Sterling. It was to impress investors, part of the character. Good thing I fell for the man in simple jeans and a shirt. And good thing I fell for the woman who isn't impressed by $15,000 suits. They sat in silence for a few minutes, admiring the stars. Julian? Yes? Thank you. For what? For teaching me that rich people can be genuine, for showing me that money can be used to do good, for proving to me that trust is won back through actions, not words. Alison? Yes? Thank you. For what? For teaching me that honesty is worth more than any strategy, for showing me that simplicity is a choice, not an imposition, for proving to me that true love doesn't need tests. We make a good team, don't we? The best team in the world. 5 years later, Julian and Alison received an unexpected invitation. What's this? Alison asked, looking at the elegant envelope. A letter from the World Health Organization. Saying what? Julian read the letter out loud. Dear Doctors Julian Sterling and Alison Vance Sterling, we are honored to invite you to receive the International Award for Innovation in Social Medicine for the Community Clinic project you created and expanded to 12 countries. I can't believe it, Alison shouted. Mom! Julian called Mrs. Martha, who was tending the garden. Come here. What is it? She appeared with dirt on her hands. We won an international award, Ma. For what? For the work at the clinics, Alison explained. Mrs. Martha sat down in a chair, emotional. I'm so proud of you two. The ceremony is in Geneva, Julian said. Want to come with us? Leo and me? Mrs. Martha asked. Of course, you're our family. Grandma, are we flying on a plane? Shouted Leo, who had run in upon hearing the conversation. We are, my love, to a place far away. Can I bring my toy cars? You can bring anything you want, said Alison, hugging her son. The ceremony in Geneva was incredible. Julian and Alison stepped onto the stage to receive the award in front of dignitaries from around the world. I'd like to dedicate this award, Alison said into the microphone, to all the families we've served at our clinics. You taught us that quality healthcare is a right, not a privilege. And I'd like to dedicate, Julian added, to my mother, who taught me that true wealth is being able to help those in need, and to my wife, who taught me that honesty is always the best policy. The audience gave a standing ovation. After the ceremony, a journalist approached them. Dr. Julian, you're known as one of the richest men in Brazil, yet you live very simply. Why? Because happiness has no price, and simplicity isn't about lacking money, it's an abundance of wisdom. Dr. Alison, what's it like being married to a billionaire? It's like being married to any good man. There are easy days, there are hard days, but every day is worth it. What advice would you give to other couples? Julian and Alison looked at each other and smiled. Be honest from the very first date, said Julian. And if someone lies, throw coffee on their clothes, Alison added, drawing laughter from the audience. End of story. So what did you think of this love story that started with a lie and ended with true love? Tell us in the comments. Do you think Alison was right to give Julian a second chance? And what did you think of Mrs. Martha's attitude? Leave your opinions and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one.